First step to transform fight or flight, get a little tiny road mic. Itty bitty, and you'll feel enormous. And immediately, what can scare you when you're so ginormous? Okay, here's the thing, this is part of life. You're never gonna actually heal fight or flight. You're never going to get over fear, like no fear, right? That's not going to actually happen. Fear is a part of the human condition. Fight or flight is a part of the human condition. So when you see these things, these bumper stickers out, no fear, that's impossible. Maybe for a psychopath it's possible, but it's not possible. But we need to learn how to maintain these things, right? And if you saw my last video, I would say I was probably in fight or flight, definitely fight, probably fight. And again, this is natural cycles, but it's what we do with it. Are you going to use it for good or evil? Are you going to use it for the lightness or the dark? And again, what is light? What is dark? It sounds so airy fairy, right? But it's really an energetic thing, and energy is real. We can all agree on that. You can look up the science on that. I'm not going to give a science lecture because I'm not a scientist. But I do know that you can feel these things vibrationally. I do know that we all hold vibration, right? And we are made up of water, which can turn into different states of being. Same with us with our emotions, same with us with vibration. The water is going to change because I just moved it to change, right? The last video I posted, I was in fight, but see, you have to allow yourself to feel these things and let them go through you. Otherwise, that resistance to it can create psychopathic behavior. Sometimes those super spiritual, like know-it-alls, right? Anybody who claims to be to know everything anyway does not know anything, because the minute you realize anything, you realize you know nothing. Sometimes in the spiritual community, you could be animated or alive and not robotic, and they're like, oh, like all these groaning noises. I never know what to do with that. Oh, Or they're the type of people who, you'll shake their hand and they're like, oh. I never know what to do with that one. I'm like, oh, should I just, hello, hello, the hello finger. So, how do we transform fight or flight? First step is to allow yourself to actually feel the feelings that you're feeling, right? People, oh, just feel it. But it's not always going to be like, just butterflies. That is pushing down. That is robotic. That is programming. So, no, you don't have to be like me getting all fired up on a YouTube video or whatever, but allowing whatever the feeling is to move through you in a healthy way. I mean, silly stuff like punching a pillow, yelling into the pillow, definitely exercise. For me, yoga and moving my body and swimming and that sort of thing, walking in nature, hiking, anything that's going to change the water within you, change and actually physically move, will also help to adjust it, right? But you need to allow yourself to also feel that anger, whatever it is. Because, see, in my opinion, the darkness, who's the darkness? I don't know. Pick your whatever. You can find it anywhere. You can find it in any religion, you can find it in any political affiliation, you can find it in Hollywood. What is light? You can find that also in any political affiliation, in any maybe not any political affiliation. That's a stretch, but there's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. So another way to transform fight or flight is art. Art heals. That is what heals. I felt so much better yesterday because I turned to art. And I was watching that Cat Williams interview that's like breaking the internet, right? Have you seen it? Have you seen the Cat Williams interview? It's fascinating. And it reminded me that we need contrast. And it reminded me that people are allowed to speak their voice, speak their voice and make jokes. And I've never been for cancel culture because that is so dangerous. And comedy, artists, art heals. Comics right now are helping the world. The ones that aren't trying to play safe and just still talking, like Dave Chappelle, whether you agree or disagree. Because here's the thing, that's what's going to bring us together is when we can laugh about both sides of whatever it is. Whenever you're married to one thing and you refuse to open up your viewpoint, you definitely can get stuck in fight or flight because you're in this program of like, I have to, hate somebody. No, you can disagree with somebody so much and still not have hate in your body. So I got really excited because it reminded me of my roots. Let me know, are you an artist? Are you an artist? I know I work with a lot of actors, I work with a lot of musicians, I work with a lot of leaders and entrepreneurs too. I think that you're creating anything when you're consciously creating your life. We're all artists. But art is what helps us and heals us. So, if you don't know my story, just to give you a quick synopsis, in another lifetime ago, I was living in Los Angeles for over a decade. And at the tail end of my journey there, I was actually starting to get some leverage and book parts, and I was producing comedy shows. And I had a couple really big comedy shows in Santa Monica, California, where I produced a comedy show at the Ye Old King's Head Pub, and it was becoming a big show. And we did that. My producer and I, Jane and Lauren and I, did that for a few years, and tons. I'm telling you, I could name drop 4 days of tons of people, and some of them my friends who are huge comics now. And I say friend because I have heart like a friend, right? And they were dear friends, and some of them I lost touch with, and now they're hugely famous. The reason I lost touch is because at the tail end of my career, or not the tail end of my career, as if I'm dead or something, but at that phase in my life, right? As a comic, I was doing stand-up comedy, I was touring professionally, I was producing shows, I was writing, and also acting and getting, auditions and commercials and things like that. So then cut to a cancer diagnosis in 2010, and it made me just shift everything and what my priorities were. And at the time, I had a boyfriend, and I promise we're going to get back more to fight or flight here, okay? So stick with me. But I had a boyfriend at the time who he had he just finished actually as the visual effects supervisor on the film The Life of Pi, and he had been working in the film business as a visual effects person for 20 plus years and was ready for a change. And we were talking about getting married and having a family, and I really wanted that. And so I thought, here I'm facing my mortality, and I really want to have kids and all these different things. And so, long story short, or maybe just a tiny bit longer, we decided to move to Colorado together, and we were going to do that. And that's not what happened. And then Spirit guided me to open a business and to help people in that way. And I started producing comedy shows at a theater that was my own theater that I just immediately started this theater in Denver, Leah Marlene Actors Studio, and then on a stage theater. And anyway, so I've been teaching for 10 years. And I invited Christina, the last, Christina P., Tom Segura's wife, the last text message, that exchange that we had was in 2017, right after my daughter was born. And I was like, would you ever consider coming and playing a small theater? My theater, it's only a 76 seat black box theater. was so fun. And she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but my agent has a deal with Comedy Works, and so she couldn't." She's like, "Denver's so cool, whatever," and all the stuff. And I was like, "It's so cool how successful you are." Anyway, that was like our last exchange. Now they have like handlers, and I don't even know. They can't even get through to these people anymore, but that's okay. The point is that it reminded me, just taking this deep dive yesterday into my own roots and comedy and laughing and just remembering. I worked at a terrible comedy club. I don't know if I want to go through all my whole history right now, but the point is laughter. That long winded story, it reminded me about laughter and how laughter really does heal. So let's keep that alive. No matter what comedians you like or dislike, allow even comedians that you dislike to have a voice if that's what they want to do, because otherwise we're just going to all turn into robots. We can't all like the exact same thing. So a way to transform fight or flight is to laugh. And also, number 3, if we're counting, is to allow that contrast, to allow there to be differing opinions. Not everybody's going to have your sense of humor. Not everybody's going to like what you like. And that might sound really simple, but just to remember that, to fall in love with the contrast. And yesterday, taking this deep dive in that Cat Williams, I mean, oh my gosh, maybe I'll have to talk about some other stories, but some of the things that he was saying was reminding me of when I was waiting tables at a comedy club. I mean, just so many funny things. And what I loved about that life was really just laughing. I also love that Theo Vaughn, who I also knew 20 plus years ago, and all these cool people that I love are successful now, because these are good people. These are people I had the blessing of knowing, back in the day, and I'm excited, and they inspire me, and it's so fun to watch. But I love that, Joe Rogan was like, "Yeah, come on the show." I mean, I think it's great. Cat Williams was like, "He just want me on the show," and Joe Rogan's like, "Come on the show." That contrast, we need more of that. That's awesome. And the fact that Theo Vaughn and none of them responded, because why? They're all like, "We love Cat Williams," and Cat Williams said Joe Rogan had, 6 people that he's like pushing out that aren't funny, and it's like, it's funny. It's comedy. It's comedy. Nobody even knows who he's talking about. Maybe it was, that crew, Tom Segura, but those guys are great. And who knows? And it doesn't matter, because that's comedy. And it's like, pressing each other's buttons. And that's what got me excited, is that it's like supposed to be fun. So getting back to appreciating the contrast, right? If you've ever looked into Abraham Hicks' works, she talks about falling in love with the contrast. Then we don't resist anything, we accept everything, and we can manifest faster. I know I'm like kind of all over the place right now, but I think you can track with me. A big turning point for me, when I remember when I was producing that show in Santa Monica, one night I did not want to go. This is going to bring to number 4, since we are counting. I didn't want to go because I was tired, and I was just like, I don't feel like being funny, and it's work at a point. Even art is work at a point. And anything you love is work at a point, because it takes discipline. And that's what I loved about that Cat Williams interview too, is because he talked about discipline, having that discipline for the craft and everything. I love that. One night I didn't want to go, and I ended up going because it was my show. I was like, comics would joke like, "Oh, is this like Fisher Price, my first comedy show?" Because I would bring the mic. I had the speakers because it was in this back room. I think that show is still going on there in Santa Monica, by the way. If anybody knows and you're watching, let me know, because it's long past, like, since when Jana and I created it. But Jana was the bartender, and I hosted the show, and we had so many great comics come through that room. But anyways, I did not want to go that night. I did. It was a small, I mean, it was a small little room in the back of the bar. Anyway, we'd always pack it out. It's just fun. That's like, guerrilla style grassroots comedy. It's so fun. There were a few people there, and I just went ahead and did my act. And I had this voice in my head right before I started. I said, what if it's not about you? What if it's not always about you? So not only, yeah, laugh, but what if it's not only about you? What if you have a gift to give somebody else? Right? So it wasn't about oh, my ego that nobody's here, or not nobody, because there's three people. That's not nobody. There's three people, right? So checking your ego and going, where's my ego? Because I made those three people laugh. One of those people came up to me afterwards and said that he saw a flyer. Obviously, my promoting was working really well. So he's like, he pulled me aside, which wasn't hard to do, in a small room with three people. And he said, I saw your flyer and I wasn't going to come. I just saw it. I just told a stranger, but he's like, I was actually going to take my life tonight, but you made me laugh. And I'm like, oh, dear God, no pressure, huh? But he was genuine. He was smiling. And I hope to God, he continued on and didn't like really process my set too much afterwards. But no, we had a nice hug, and it was such a gift from spirit. And it reminded me, when you're in fight or flight, sometimes it's because of something over here or over there that made you feel that way. But when you come back into present and you remember how you can be of service to somebody else, that can help you to transform fight or flight. Take deep breaths and remember that you can also be all of yourself, like I've said before, which means that you can have ups and downs, to allow yourself that. See, the narcissist, the darkness, all that's the same. I'm going to start calling it the darkest. Wants you to believe that you just need to be a monotone robot. They're programming because that's who they want you to be. And that's going to put you in fight or flight. You don't have to be. So no matter what you've been through in your life, you can start right now. You can take a deep breath. You can move your body around. You can laugh. You can be of service. You can remember why you're here on this planet. And that will instantly help you to transform the fight or flight. You can also watch this meditation that I made for you. And remember, really live each day like it's a gift. We don't know if we're going to have another day. So now, a part of you that can put you in fight or flight, right? But it's what you do with it again. If you have anger and you're feeling like to fight, use it to transform yourself into the highest and best version of yourself. If you're wanting to run away from something, instead of running away from something, grow towards something, okay? Today is a gift. Treat it like that. So much love to you.